No, I don't think so.
So when you have to request to have to be provided. If we okay, so Vanessa, tell
Good afternoon. Today is Tuesday. I'll wait for the chatter. Good afternoon. Today's Tuesday, August 13th. This is a continuation of the work session we started yesterday. We ran out of time. There are 3 items on the agenda. Item number 1, crime, litter, biological waste discussion, vagrant issues, and graffiti discussion. We're going to table that. Our legal counsel is not here. We just found out yesterday when we posted this that he has a court hearing this afternoon. So we're going to postpone that, table that until a later date. But yeah, I see Interim Chief Kahanovich here, if you would like to come up and maybe say a few words about the crime issues or what your department is seeing, and then Ms. Detective Lay can come and give us an update on the Homeless Coalition as well.
Mayor, Council, I think that's a good idea to give those updates today. You're right, we don't have legal counsel for any legal questions that we might have, but at least we can kind of get the benefit of what our police department's seeing, and then Detective Lay working with the Homeless Coalition.
And that was really our main intent to begin with, to see what the law states, what we can do to conform to what the law states on.
Mayor, can I just ask, if I understand there are people here who have come to speak to us as well, and I'm wondering, as long as we're not seeking legal advice about what they're saying, but just taking that information in, would it not be appropriate just to hear it?
That's up to council.
I just think for the sake of not inconveniencing them,
But if there's a question that arises, we can answer.
but we could have a later.
Okay. All right, well, let's start with Interim Chief Tahanovich. Can you come up, sir? May I remind everyone as well before we start our discussions that even though our rules of decorum aren't actually in place yet, I want this to be a meeting that's respectful, informative, and polite and courteous. We can express our concerns and our opinions, but please do it in a respectful manner. Alrighty, sir, the floor is yours.
Mayor, Council, thanks for having me. First and foremost, you guys aren't alone, the community's not alone. I'm in the same boat with frustrations. I grind my guts every night when I'm trying to figure out what are we gonna do about these people that are in the parks, on the river walking, graffitiing, and leaving trash behind. We're trying to work together with the Homeless Coalition and other city departments to figure out the proper ways to go about it without categorizing a group of individuals that doesn't fit in with what our community is. They are a part of our community. Unfortunately, they're down on their luck. They're addicted to drugs or they're having mental health issues. So we're trying to figure out what we can best do to have some help with that. We're working towards the co-responder program, and Jen can probably speak about that a little bit when she comes up. You guys know that we're trying to fight the drug problem that we're having in town. So we're working on it. It's people want avalanche results, but it's glacial speed, unfortunately. But we're working on it. It's not that we're sitting there with our hands under our pants here and not doing anything about it. So we're working towards some things. It just doesn't happen overnight. I feel that community needs to be involved. Homelessness is not illegal. Some of the things that they're doing is illegal. We try to get to it, combat it as best we can. So I have limited resources with the police department. I can't post somebody down there 24/7, unfortunately. That'd be great to have a park patrol, but I got the whole community to care for and watch after. So we're busy. A lot of stuff going on in town. Not a lot of major things. I mean, people hear crime rate and they think that we're having homicides and aggravated assaults constantly, and what we're not. What drives us is property crimes. Shopliftings, thefts, broken windows, people not locking their doors on their cars, and someone taking that crime of opportunity to get into someone's car and steal their loose change. Those are the ones that drive our, what we call crime rate, up a little bit in a smaller community, because that's what we deal with the most. So, I mean, we don't have a violent community, we really don't. And I think there's a misconception that there's a certain group of people in town, in the downtown area, that all they do is fight and steal and deface, but it happens all over the place. That just happens to be right in the middle of town where everybody's at. So, I mean, Southside Park's a prime example. The dog park area back over in that area, we're combating it everywhere, so. And I'm working with Jared Chatterley from the outdoor recreation. He's kind of spearheaded the graffiti removal process. We just got a new machine, I think, recently that he's working through the kinks on, trying to figure out how to use it efficiently. And I think the graffiti's popping up a little bit faster than he can get to it, because he has other jobs to tend to as well, so. Does anybody have any questions for me? I'm here.
Erin, to the right.
I appreciate the report and checking in with us. It's good to know that although people perceive that there is a lot of violent crime here, that there is not. And I watch the Crime Watch app, so I'm aware of what's going on. It does seem like it's mostly drug-related crimes. I'm encouraged by what you all have done with the seizures on the highway and otherwise. I'm really glad for the canine support that we have. I'm wondering what it would entail to have a period of time that the park has greater surveillance. I understand you can't allocate an FTE to just being at the park all the time, but is there a way to be more present there throughout the day?
So my directive to the department has been increased patrols in the areas. And that, you know, foot patrol, we've had the ATVs we go out on when they have time to do it. That's kind of a unique situation because you're kind of stuck doing that one job, and if you get called away to it to someone else, you gotta go find a patrol car. So you gotta kind of be dedicated to that job for the day to do those type of patrols. But the foot patrols and stuff, I think, have been helping a little bit better. But then again, if I have on a short shift 3 patrol officers working that day, and you got a couple of them cruising through the park, and then something's going on in Allendale, you know. So it's just that balance that I got to try to figure out. But my directive has been be visible in the parks and river walks and downtown area a little bit more. The peak times of when we're needed, it's hit or miss. There's sometimes first thing in the morning where they're getting called down there for something going on, or somebody obstructing a doorway on Commercial Street, or, you know, we've been having those calls lately where they're just camping out in the doorways. Could be 7 in the morning, could be noon, could be 10 o'clock at night. It's hit or miss. So.
Mike, thank you for everything you do.
Thanks.
It seems like everything's sensationalized on Facebook. I've had people address me and call me and tell me that there's a contingency of people down on the Riverwalk with baseball bats, and they accost people, they jump out. I know that's kind of pretty far-fetched, but can you kind of touch on that?
I've noticed that there's been a few of them who've weaponized themselves. I think it's in protection from their own, the group that's down there. They're not nice to each other, unfortunately. I've had some conversations with some of the people that have been trying to help them out down there, and, you know, kind of be a spiritual guide and some food and clothing and stuff for them every once in a while. And the feedback you get from them is that they're fighting amongst each other, they're stealing from each other, they're, you know, doing all those things to each other, committing crimes against each other. So I think that's a lot of what it is. I don't have a lot of information that suggests that if you're walking on the path, someone comes up to you with a bat and says you better get on my territory. It just doesn't happen.
Okay, so a lot of...
That the police department's aware of it. So if a lot of times though, we get those complaints as well, and I'll ask the first thing is, did you call and ask for a police officer, or did you call dispatch? And they'll say, well, no, I didn't want to bother, or they'll say something to that effect. But I encourage anybody who sees something or is involved in something, please call us. You know, we're on 24 hours a day.
So Mike, do you have an incentive program for volunteers that may want to spend 4 or 5 hours a month even, kind of cleaning up that area? Because I've been down there with kids from the junior high, cleaning up graffiti with sandpaper and black spray paint.
Well, what used to happen is that the probation department through the courts used to do I think it was their community service program where they had to come out and clean the graffiti, and then there was the youth council that is no longer, that they used to go out and clean that stuff up too. So I'm open to ideas. I don't know as far as like an incentive to anything, just that sense of community, I guess, that you're helping keeping your community clean and stuff. I know that Purgatory Water group takes pride in going down there to clean up the river bottom and stuff. So volunteers and volunteers, you know, I mean, that'd be great, but I don't know what we can offer back to them.
But then again, you're talking about legal things too, with liability,
Right.
with townspeople getting involved and possibly getting hurt.
Yeah. I mean, if a group ever wants to get together, I know Ms. Knudsen, she's asked for the officers to go down while they're cleaning up, to have us go down and just be present. If we see something, a group of them say, hey, can you guys move along? They're trying to clean up the trash and stuff. So we're open to going down if there's a group that says, hey, we're gonna go clean up graffiti today, we're gonna paint or whatever. We can come down and say, hey, guys, just give them some space and they're uncomfortable. Not that they're doing anything to cause harm, it's just the uncomfortableness, I think, a lot of times of it. I'm not trying to say that just because you're homeless, you need to be uncomfortable around it, but, you know, some people just have that feeling and they call the police.
So what other resources do you need
Well,
besides
I'd like to have some more police officers.
manpower?
And we're working through the resources, like getting a co-responder for mental health. I'd like to see more done in this community for addiction help. And I think that's one of the biggest things is that people work themselves into a situation where they are addicted to a substance and they become kind of a floater. They don't have a job, they don't have, you know, it's just, that's all they live for. It's sad to see, and I don't like to see our community like that. I wish there was more we could do, but that takes a lot of manpower as well and financing. You know, our detox center is, I think, a little short of what this community needs. And there's been some other organizations that have stepped up, like Keep Trinidad Safe is really picking up the game on trying to help people get back on their feet, and they've had some success stories. So, you know, addiction recovery is one of the biggest things, mental health, and some more police officers to be out there patrolling. It starts with presence. If they see us, they're going to be less inclined to do something to somebody else or cause a problem or smoke those drugs in the park or whatever it is that they're doing. So.
Mr. Shu. Michael.
Mr. Shu, how are you, sir?
Good. Mike, you know, I know you're doing a great, I understand more than anybody about what goes on with that. But I just kind of want to clarify, you have a lot of people in here now. If you have issues exactly like people sleeping in doorways and that, and you go get them out of there in the morning, what exactly are you telling them? I mean, you tell them to leave the area or not come back, or?
Yeah, we're telling them they need to move along, and that the city ordinance says that loitering consists of obstructing the sidewalk, obstructing a business way, obstructing a pathway. And then we'll ask the business owner to please fill out a statement and say, hey, what did you see? Because we weren't there, right? So I want the people who are wanting to file a complaint to actually file a complaint with us. Put it on paper and say, hey, I saw this guy sleeping in my doorway. He brought all his bags and his dog and he was in the doorway, you know, or he was laying across the sidewalk and nobody can get by. Those are the things that I want the community to know. We need that put back on paper because we need a witness. We weren't there to witness it.
Right.
So we are trying to get that so we can get them at least a municipal ticket to see the judge, and the judge can make some determinations on some things. Our hands are a little tight with municipal court right now. We're working through some of that stuff. But if it's a verbal warning, it's hey, can you please move somewhere else? And so I think there's a bigger issue on that where people say, well, how come you can't just move them out of the park? How come you can't get them off the river bottom? Well, where do they go? They go to the next spot where it's somebody else's property, where they don't want somebody hanging around their property or their business or their sidewalk. So it's, you know, Jen will probably touch on that a little bit later with the homeless coalition's
And the other
mission.
question is, like, not question, but you have a lot of people breaking in homes and stuff. I mean, we had an incident over at my neighborhood, the house there on Nevada, and they boarded it up and they broke in again. Mm-hmm. And I didn't call the police, someone did, and they came there and it kind of just chased them away. Is that the procedure, or is there something we can do to, I mean, if they're breaking into a place that
we catch them inside and stuff sometimes, and they do get a trespassing charge, stuff like that. But at times it'll be like, well, I had left my backpack in there and nobody gave me an opportunity to get it out. Because that does happen when they come and close it down. We don't let nobody go back in because it's an unsafe environment. But then they didn't tell us to get the things for them, and then they come back 3, 4, 5 days later and want their backpack out of the building or shoes or something, you know.
Yeah, it just kind of curious.
And it's officer discretion too. I mean, if it, a lot of people, times somebody will see something that they really, you know, they're trying to break into that house. Well, maybe they're just hanging out in the yard or on the corner. You know, it may not have been what it was perceived to be, right? So if we find evidence of, you know, a break-in or something, we usually handle it, give them trespassing, stuff like that.
And the trespassing charge, exactly what do they get out of that?
Usually it's a summons to court.
And then they decide what
Yeah.
penalties, jail sentence or whatever.
The judge handles that, yeah.
Well, thank you, Mike, I know you do a good job. I'm better, I know it is. But I know it's a tough job and continue to do. And the only other thing I want to add is, I hate to bring it up, but we need to kind of watch commercial on Main Street. People are just making U-turns and driving kind of crazy in there. And I know that's a tough situation because you're not there witnessing it and that. And if a person does see somebody speeding and driving recklessly, if you take their license number down or that, if we turn it into the police, is there something that we can do about that?
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
it's the kind of the same process as I spoke to before, where if you saw it, we're gonna come back and say, will you fill out a statement and complaint on what you saw? I mean, it's just, you know, you write in the blank, hey, this date and time I saw this guy and he was flying down the street and he ran through the stop sign and this was his license plate number. And then that way, and then we can go issue the citation. And then it goes back onto the witness to come and testify and say, yeah, this is what I saw. So we do that with traffic complaints as well.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Trinidad, do you have any questions?
Mike, I'm just kind of curious because most of the calls and the complaints that I get is maybe feeling unsafe at Safeway, feeling unsafe at the dollar store, feeling unsafe at the market. Just for clarification, you guys you can't just go in there without a call, right?
No, we can. We do try to get through there. I mean, I know a lot of people say, well, I never see the police officers. I never see them. Well, they're busy. They're going here, they're going there, they're going here. And I wish we had more time to make patrols in the business areas and the downtown areas and parks and stuff. But I tell them, please get to it if you can. But they're busy. They're running here, they're running there. Then they got to sit down, they got to type a report. So yeah, we can definitely do extra patrols in businesses and parking lots and things of that sort for that stuff.
Okay. Now, is it helpful if they actually call and report that they're having excessive loitering?
Yeah, they do. They do a great job of it. And a lot of times they'll just tell us, hey, just tell them to move on. If it's a continual problem with a certain individual, they will ask us. We have a form. It's a trespassing form. And it's basically we serve it on behalf of the business or the person who wants them trespassed. So if you had a business and there was a continual problem with a person coming there that you were like, I don't want this person here anymore, and they had no business being there, they weren't conducting business, whatever it may be, they stole from you, and you're like, I just don't want them to come back. We'll issue the trespass warning, you'll sign it, the person will sign it, you get a copy, they get a copy, we keep a copy on file.
And so are we getting like good engagement from the community actually calling in, like when there's like in alleyways or they're in empty lots, things like that?
We do. And again, that's sometimes a perception because you may look out your window and see somebody walking down the street and go, oh my goodness, who is that? And they call the police and it's just somebody walking down the street or something, you know. But good eye, right? I don't want to discourage people from calling the police ever. So I like people to call, but a lot of times when they say, well, they didn't do nothing about that guy walking through my neighborhood. Just walking through the neighborhood. I can't do nothing about it, you know what I mean? So, but yes, the community is calling us.
Okay.
Mike,
What's up?
I appreciate you, man. I see you guys all the time, everywhere, so that's a good thing. Is there some kind of media blitz that you guys do to show the optics of what type of crime and what kind of percentage it is to the community so they will get an understanding or a grasp of what's really going on besides a general mass of this town is violent or this town is drug town? Is there some kind of local metrics?
So we're gonna start trying to post a little bit more stats on our. Right now we have Crime Watch. Everybody I think is aware that our Facebook side of social media got hacked and somebody was just putting up some random police videos and stuff up there. Wasn't really anything egregious, but we lost access to it. And I know a lot more people use the Facebook platform to get their information. Our Crime Watch was tied to it, so I encourage everybody to go and sign up for the Crime Watch because we do, that's where everything starts, and we're gonna start posting more stats on that, more what is actually our day-to-day. So you get like the daily, like the police blotter comes out and says, this is what happened in town. It doesn't really tell you what happened, but what was the outcome, or, you know, so I'm starting with some code enforcement stuff on there now. We started posting that, so I think a really big complaint was code enforcement in town, but those guys are working their tails off. They really are. It's just playing the catch-up game. So we said, let's put those stats up there so we can see what they're actually doing. And I think we're gonna try to do that with some of our crime stats as well. So is that kind of what you were looking for?
Kind of close, you did it, but I was just looking for more, something that's like maybe on our website or something postal that's in the mail or maybe something.
And Mayor Council, I'm gonna ask everybody to speak up a little bit, just so people can hear
Yeah.
the conversation. But I think, and Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but Crime Watch is really the best place to go to. So
That is our website. That's
yeah,
the
they
police
publish real-time
department's.
statistics there and reports.
Yeah, that's the police department's official website. So that's where it's at now until we get it back connected with Facebook. So everything that goes from Crime Watch will go onto a Twitter page and a Facebook page.
Got it.
Okay. All right.
Aaron?
Interim Chief Tahanovich, thank you for being here today. I would say being a police chief is a really, really tough job.
It is.
I suspect that doing it in an intern capacity adds another layer to the onion, so to speak, of stress, unknown, and uncertainty, and we've been in that role for some time. It's our desire that we can bring that to fruition sooner rather than later, I would think. So thank you for everything you've done. We've all read in the newspapers of the recent drug busts. Those have been incredible. I mean, large volumes, and really speak well of your department's trying to enforce those rules, and that's absolutely helpful. And I do want to commend you as well. I personally have received several calls from business owners downtown that have said you've done incredible amount of work in changing the landscape that they deal with, and that's been mostly just through the enforcement of the loitering code. So thank you for the efforts you're making. I guess we're not having the full discussion today, and I understand that, unfortunately. But hopefully, I think there's steps that we can take together as council, city administration, and then employees of the city, and even people in town, to better our situation. I think, we've touched on a few of them, and I don't want to rehash them, otherwise we may as well just be having the work session on this. But in lieu of furthering that discussion, I did want to ask, and again, the primary thing I want to say is thank you for what you're doing. It is seen. You guys are very hardworking, and I appreciate it. You mentioned earlier that you're, and sorry for putting you on the spot potentially, you said your hands are tied with a municipal court lately. What is causing that, and what do we need to do to correct that?
Quite frankly, there's been some changes from the ACLU that has come down, and some MOUs with the jail that we haven't renewed. We can't hold anybody to the possibility of jail. I mean, when you're looking at a criminal act, I mean, I think a lot of people think that, you committed a crime and the judge can sentence you to jail. And right now, municipal court doesn't have that capacity. We're gonna try to work on that here pretty soon to figure out if it's something we're gonna seek out. We have till September 1st to get some documents to, I can't remember the agency, what it's called, but, and then try to move forward with some agreements with the Los Angeles County Jail so we can have the possibility of holding some people more accountable when they've committed some crimes or when they repeatedly don't show up for court. I think it's one of the biggest issues that we have right now with municipal court is they'll have a bench warrant put out for their arrest, and right now the only thing I could do is issue a personal recognizance bond where they're just promising to show up again. So that's kind of what I meant on that. But other than that, I mean, we have municipal court, it functions, we just don't have that tool of jail.
So when did we lose that ability?
I'm not sure. It was before I was the chief.
Yeah, and Mayor and Council, it was before my time as well, I can tell you that. So Audra and I are looking at agreements right now to, obviously we have to pay to house inmates for us, but interim chief is correct. We really feel like that's a strong enforcement. Ultimately be up to the municipal court to decide whether or not to incarcerate, but that is something we would like to see from our side, be more of a stronghold. And I can certainly corroborate what interim chief is saying. It's been challenging for the municipal court side because he's absolutely right. People may not show up. They may have bench warrants. We can certainly issue citations, but the disposition of that is on more of the legal municipal court side that we really don't have control over. So we're working as hard as we can with them to see what we can do to put those enforcement mechanisms in place. But that has been a long-standing issue that Chief can definitely tell you has really inhibited our ability to kind of prosecute some of the things that are happening.
So you mentioned, and I may have misunderstood, but you mentioned there's a potential deadline of September 1st. Is that?
It is a deadline of September 1st.
So-
The paperwork's going to be filled out by the municipal court clerk.
So that is a hard deadline, and if we miss out, we lose an opportunity, or it's a self-imposed deadline?
So this is
What type
for,
of
so
deadline?
the other ruling that had come down is that we have to provide them with legal counsel as well. Kind of like when you get arrested, you go to county court, if you can't afford a lawyer, one will be provided for you. The same thing's going to be the case for municipal court, or is the case for municipal court. So that is an application we're going to try to get grant funding, I believe, from the state.
Okay, and so if hypothetically we miss that September 1st deadline, then what?
I believe we have to try it again next year.
And Mayor Council, Audra and I were just looking at the paperwork today. We will not miss that September 1st deadline. So we'll make sure to get it in probably this week. But it is a really good question. We don't want to miss the opportunity now that it's been presented to us.
So Mr. Ruger, you anticipate, unless something very unforeseen happens, we will regain that ability by,
Well, certainly by September 1st, which is just a couple weeks away at this point, or 3 weeks away, I guess. But yes, we will make sure we have our ducks in a row. But again, it's on the municipal court side to decide the disposition of the cases.
and then obviously I'm sure the incoming interim city manager is aware of that, I'm sure.
Yes.
So Mayor, I have no more questions. Obviously, we have to develop this a lot further, I think, but for the sake of preserving some time to hear from others, I'll be done.
And I just want to add one thing with that, is that the jail has to agree to this as well. We can't tell the jail you're going to take our inmates. So that's kind of a discussion that myself and the sheriff and some other city officials need to have. So.
Okay.
Hi there. I appreciate you standing up here. I know it's probably as hard as doing what you do out on the street sometimes. We're a rough-looking bunch here. I like the idea of community involvement. I just don't know how that would play out as far as getting citizens involved. When you were speaking, I was thinking, I've been down to Trinidad Park when Pastor Clay feeds people. And I know probably some of you in the audience are looking at the criminal side of some of the individuals that go down to the park. But you have to understand, a couple of times I went down there were actually families with babies down there trying to find something to eat. So when we have to have a delicate balance. We have to have people abide by the law, but not so cold-hearted that we cannot serve part of the community that needs our service. So I understand where you're coming from. That being said, that park is just a magnet. It's centrally located for number one, and number two, Pastor Clay uses it to disperse breakfast in the morning, and I think it's just dinner on Sundays. What about putting really some decent security cameras in there to maybe stop some of the really heinous things that are going on down there?
It's been a thought that's gone through my head, is to add more security cameras to our parks and river path. That costs money, and I gotta
Obviously.
talk to IT and find out what their budget looks like and see if there's a way we can do that. But that has been an idea that's been floating around at Sheriff's, you know. But then again, that's only used to go back and see what did happen, not to prevent the crime.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you may get somebody who sees a security camera and says, oh, I better not be doing what I'm doing right here if I'm thinking of doing something outside of the scope of the law. But then again, I don't think it would be much of a crime deterrent
You know,
unless people started getting caught where they're saying, hey, there's a camera here, we shouldn't be doing stuff right here. Could take some time, but the biggest tool that we use our city security cameras for is to go back and find out what took place, not to prevent what happened or watch what's happening. I don't have a body to do that. So,
I understand.
but it's a wonderful idea, and I think as technology has grown, that there's not an excuse for us to be investing into surveillance for our.
It almost has to be indestructible as well.
Right, well, most of the cameras we have in town are high enough to where you'd have to have a really good aim to throw something at it or get into it. They're way out of reach up on the light poles and stuff, so.
I know when Chief Glorioso was working for us, he put, and you and I talked about that, and I'll make it very brief, but we have those picnic tables over under the bypass. But Pastor Clay refuses to use them.
I wasn't part of that discussion, but from my understanding is there was an agreement for them to move breakfast over there. From what I understand from Pastor Clay's rebuttal to that is that it's noisy, there's chemicals coming down from the highway, and it's just not a very good environment for them. So they decided to go back. I mean, it's a public use area, the parking lot and the park, so you couldn't really say, you know.
What about bolting all those picnic tables to their respective cement pad instead? They're moving them around, and I noticed that a lot of those tables have been destroyed.
And that's the truth, they've been destroyed, and at one time they probably were bolted down. If we had able to ask the Parks Department that things do get unbolted or broken off and moved around, so.
I know that's more for Mr. Rupert than yourself. Alrighty, sir, thank you.
And Mayor, I just wanted to your question, yes, that is correct. So I think it was about a little over a year ago, we did have a conversation with Pastor Clay about changing where he was providing meals to under the viaduct. We did install some tables down there, they're still there. And to Interim Chief's point, we thought that was a win. We thought actually that would be a good situation for them if it was raining, because they had cover and that type of thing. Unfortunately, they've decided that's not a good location and it moved back to Trinidad Park. But to the chief's point, it's still a public space where they are allowed to gather. So we can't, unfortunately, just automatically boot them out for that.
But there's nothing we can do if one group monopolizes that area. There's nothing we can do about that.
So I had a question, if I may, since
Sure.
we're having a discussion. Is there a potential, and I think we probably entered into the realm of legal questions.
Yeah.
But is there a potential for a use permit if you go from, so that park is intended for public use, not for monopolization by a specific entity. So if you're any entity that wants to have an event in the park, say an architectural club meeting to have lunch and then go look at the nice houses in Trinidad, potentially. is there a way that we could request that they have a permit to do so and registration fee to do that? Because by meeting in the park, you're increasing the burden on the city. They have to come and clean the restrooms, they have to change the toilet paper in the restrooms, they have to add extra people or people through there to change the trash cans. The officers have to have extra patrols. There's all, potentially, depending on the crowd, there's all sorts of extra costs that are associated. And above and beyond that, we are only allowed to shut down Main Street through particular means, and there's fees included for that, because again, you're impacting public access to public spaces for the entirety of the community. So when one entity, any entity, a group is using that, can we ask them to register and pay something of a fee, potentially $150? And that wouldn't be for the use of it for the day, that would be per event, so breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's not as if they can't go to other locations that would be free of charge. It's just if they wish to use the park on an ongoing basis, they should help contribute to the upkeep of the said park. Is that possible?
Yeah, and Mayor, Council, and thank you, Councilmember Williamson, you had mentioned that previously. It really requires a legal interpretation. It's the fine line between what's considered public use versus private use. Certainly we already have ordinances that say if you rent out one of our pavilions or structures for a birthday party, that's private use. You're taking the right to use away from other people because you locked it up for your private event. Homelessness is a little bit different in that it's not just a group that's using it for a private purpose. They're all different public people. And I'm going to stop there because it really is
Yes.
more of a legal question than it is
Yes.
something that we can, address at this point without legal counsel. But that is something that probably we need to figure out.
Alrighty, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Here's my thing.
Jen, do you want to come up here, please? Thank you.
Good
I
afternoon.
don't really know how to officially introduce you.
Sergeant what?
Detective, no, Lieutenant Detective Nick?
Detective Sergeant.
Sorry.
Or for today, just Jen.
Okay,
Just Jen.
I'll stick with Jen.
Just
How's
Jen,
that?
yeah.
Okay, all right.
So as you recall, back in May of 2023, I came to the council and talked to you all about an issue that I saw around town, homelessness, and gave you a full presentation and gave you a bunch of stats and what I wanted to have and what I envisioned Trinidad going to. From there, we had our first large meeting in July of 2023. There was about 50 to 60 people that attended that first meeting at the police department. I thought it was very well received. I know that City Manager Ruger was there as well. I think
Yes.
Madam Mayor, you were there, and there was a few other council folks that were there. It was received very well. From that, we did a few other large group meetings, and we really weren't getting where we needed to go with that many people in the room. So after about 3 meetings of the large group, we pared it down to 9 people on an executive team. And that would have been, and I'll give you all the folks' names that are on that executive team, because 2 of them are sitting back here if you want to talk to them some. Julie Knudsen, Dave, Chief Bacharach, Marcy Keys with Keep Trinidad Safe, Madeline, she's with the Public Defender's Office and her last name is escaping me at the moment. Melissa from Housing Authority, the director at Housing Authority. We had Heidi from Health Solutions there. She's since left her position, so she's no longer with the executive team. Clay, Pastor Clay, and then Shelby Gonzalez made up that executive team. We have done 10 executive team meetings. From some of those meetings, we had met with the Office of Homelessness Initiatives, which is umbrellaed under the Department of Local Affairs. We were assigned, we're not like officially assigned, but we were given somebody to kind of guide us through this process. And she had, her and her partner had made a roadmap for us here in Trinidad how we could be successful in addressing our homelessness issues here. And that's what your executive team, or this executive team, has been working on since then. Some other things have come to fruition throughout this process. We completed a concept note to apply for a grant for a systems coordinator, and subsequently applied for the systems coordinator grant through the Built for Zero. That was just done on July 15th. We did that in conjunction with Huerfano County because the state of Colorado has denoted Huerfano and Los Angeles County as one county together under their balance of state continuum of care under their homelessness model. So it was important that we partner with them in regards to this. And I've worked really closely with Robert Gilbert, who's their DOLA fellowship and also tourism director in Huerfano County. Amazing guy. Without him, I don't think we would have been able to complete that grant, and I'm sure if he was here, he would say without Jim, we wouldn't be able to complete that grant, but I'm gonna give him all the credit. We were preliminarily approved for that grant. I have a meeting with Built for Zero, which is based out of Oregon, on Friday at 11 o'clock, so we'll know a little bit more about that grant at that time. Through our work sessions with the executive team, we established some goals that we wanted to see, one of which was having a warming shelter or someplace for people to go during the winter. We worked really hard on that. Marcy Keys' organization actually paid for some repairs that needed to be done at the church. And then actually yours truly and my dad did the tile work in there and did a few other things over the weekend. So we had that for a little while. There were some things that happened and we were no longer able to use that church for the warming shelter. But Marcy Keys, the rock star that she is, got us another organization to help us out with the warming shelter. We partnered with Jennifer Radlin that does some of the boarding for animals to make sure the animals were taken care of. I had your animal shelter manager, Pam Briscoe, give us donations for animals. So it was really a collaboration to try to problem solve what things that were happening with our unhoused folks. And that's what we're continuing to do. But it seems like every step forward is 2 steps back. Aside from the 10 meetings that we've had with our executive team and the countless Zoom meetings that I've been on with the state of Colorado and this Built for Zero initiative, I've also attended 2 of our city's development team meetings to try to locate a property. It's always been my goal, and that's what I presented to you back in May of 2023, was that I think Trinidad needs to follow what Alamosa did. It's not going to be an immediate solution to every single problem that we have in regards to homelessness. But if we can start taking those incremental steps, like an encampment, so we can start moving towards the greater solutions, that's where we need to be. So right now we're hung up. We're stuck. Where are we going to put this encampment? And that's kind of, I think the other thing that's important for you all to know is that Julie's group does river cleanups. I participated in the last one, and I think it was well received by her group. Me being there as a law enforcement officer, and then also as part of this coalition, she is talking to her group of people how much this coalition is important to our community and how much it's needed. I think that's really, the other thing I will say at this point too is my goal, we have a meeting on August 20th at Space to Create. We'll do a larger group meeting, and then the executive team will meet before, and then the larger group meeting. My goal for that meeting is to try to come up with a proposal that we can bring to you all in regards to camping and how that looks within the city of Trinidad, where it is done in a compassionate way, but then also in a way that is in service to every single member of this community. Other than that, I have stats for you if you want from what we've done for 2023 as far as the police department is concerned in regards to calls for service with transient issues if you'd like that. So in 2024, thus far, for transient calls for service, we've responded to 160. Do some quick math. So, because there's 3 different call types that we do, about 175 calls for service this year. In total, last year we had 280 last year. So I'll stand for any questions.
Start with you, you're on the left.
First off, I really appreciate the effort you guys are putting in. It's incredible to hear when you break it down like that. You guys are just putting in a ton of work and effort. Like I said last Tuesday, the people that we're talking about here are human beings and deserve every modicum of respect and care that they can garner. It's just obviously we need to be concerned that impacts to neighboring citizens are taken seriously, but the humanity with which you approach it is very appreciated. Thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you.
Eamon?
Jim, you were talking about the encampments. I was wondering who's responsible for that encampment if we do it as a city? Who's the insurance? How does that work? Would we adopt Alamos full on, or do we do some tweaking?
So that's a great question. I think that we would have to kind of get into the weeds more when we had a particular place. What Alamosa does is the city provides the basic necessities like water, electricity, a place to go to the bathroom, very basic necessities. They've kind of built it out a little bit more to have security cameras there, and their police department make sure that their code enforcement officers are there 2 to 3 times a day, along with any other response that would be necessary. But I think that's something that would have to come once we find where that would kind of be in our city before we can lay out what that would look like. I've said from the beginning that what Alamos is doing, I think it would work really well here. I wouldn't have proposed it a year ago if I didn't think it would work.
Thank you for everything that you're doing. It is a thankless job. I actually like the progress that we've actually gone down in that, so it's kind of slowing down a little bit and stuff. But they kind of have an idea, and I don't know if it would work or if it would benefit you guys. So, but I kind of like to see like a potential creation of like a task force of the individuals that would actually be providing the resources that we need to either rehabilitate or move on or provide assistance, and have those departments of our city and our county work together to be able to put something together so every time somebody does go, or we do have to unfortunately arrest somebody or take somebody somewhere, there is that full-on list of resources to get them either off the street, in this way, that anything that comes available, that they can meet once in a while to go through if there's new stuff.
What we're going towards right now is exactly that. The systems coordinator position would take over the things that I'm doing. Right now, I can't dedicate, 10 hours a day to homelessness. I'm also a detective. I'm also helping the animal shelter. We're working on this co-responder. I'm on the housing authority board. About 1,000 different hats I wear. This systems coordinator would take that over, and we would go to the model of a coordinated entry system, because if you look at some of the stuff that happens within Colorado right now, we have somebody who's homeless, and it's a free-for-all on where you're going to send them, what you're going to do, how they're going to be helped, and nobody really gets the assistance in the correct order that they need. Sometimes you have a person that's going to need housing first, then drug rehab, then whatever. Everybody's going to respond differently, and that's why you have to have that coordinated entry, but we can't have coordinated entry until we have a systems coordinator. And that person would be able to put all the stakeholders within this jurisdiction, along with Where to Know, in one silo, like one group. me trying to do that, I did the best I could, but that's not my forte, that's not what I'm good at, you know? I'm learning a lot and it's been great, but that is exactly what we're going for, exactly.
Detective Sergeant, can you talk a little bit, you talked a little bit about what the city provides in Alamosa, but they don't do it without help. Can you talk a little bit more about the community partners that are doing some of the things you're talking about?
Absolutely. La Puerta, and I hope I'm enunciating that
Yeah.
correctly, in
Right.
Alamosa is that coordinated entry. What you have to have, so Colorado also has, through the Office of Homelessness Initiatives, they have a whole database that we could have access to, but we don't because we don't have somebody that can do this program is called BSPADAT. Don't ask me what it stands for, I just know I can't do it. And it's for housing, and it's to have, when you have people that are going from Pueblo to Alamosa to Trinidad, that you can track these folks that are moving from place to place and what services are there. La Puerta has that, and they work very closely with the city in order to get the assistance to people that they need at that point. Because of that, I think that's how their encampment really got off the ground.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for what you do. Everybody said, we really appreciate what you're trying to do. And I know it's tough, but keep working at it. And we'll try to work some solutions out. I mean, it just takes a lot of time to get all this together and do it. And a lot of resources, so I know you'll do your best to get that done and bring some stuff to us after the meetings and that, and then maybe we can go from there. And thank you very much.
I take it very personally and professionally. This is something that I really want the city to work on collaboratively and with compassion for everybody involved, not only our own house, but the entire community. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Just to follow up on Councilman Thurman's, he stated about city mandated guidelines for the encampments. Now, does the state mandate to the city what they have to, protocol or criteria that they have to follow?
Not to my knowledge. Not to my knowledge.
Me neither. Yeah.
So it's just up to the city itself?
Alamos.
Yeah, and sorry, Detective Sergeant, not just the city, the community itself and partners and everybody. We're kind of left on our own to figure out.
So you can indoctrinate whatever criteria you want?
That's correct, yeah. So before, and again, it's legal questions, but the previous Supreme Court ruling said that we couldn't remove homeless residents from public places unless there was a place to put them, which I think was the impetus for Alamosa's encampment. They said, okay, we're gonna develop a site that's fit for them to be at. Now that the Supreme Court ruling has changed, it's not totally that we can just remove homeless from public property, but we need to get into the weeds of what that ruling means and what we need to make happen. It's a frustration that I think a lot of Americans share. I was in San Francisco recently, and the amount of tents on the sidewalk, the amount of people on fentanyl, I mean, it was devastating. It really was. So it's not just us that's dealing with us, but unfortunately, the way we're at right now, it really is kind of falling on the local jurisdictions to figure out what's best for their community. There's no real national model or a structure that's prescribed for how we should deal with these issues.
So what number qualifies an encampment? I mean, 500?
I think that would also depend on what our city decides. I don't think there's anything that qualifies it as an encampment.
Anyway, so we can pretty much
Just,
do our own thing.
okay.
What is Built for Zero? I've forgotten.
So it's an initiative that came out of Oregon. They also started it in Fremont County. They have essentially zero homeless veterans in Fremont County. So Built for Zero, and I'm probably gonna mess it up. I wish I had Lenny on the call. I could just have him tell you exactly. But it is funding opportunities for communities that are trying to work towards zero homeless.
Okay. That's, when I went to the CML conference last year, spent a whole day looking at what's being done around it. That rings a bell. That's what Fremont is doing. They're having a lot of success with that, especially with veterans.
Right.
So if we are able to get this systems coordinator position, who would that person work for?
So we wrote the grant, myself and Robert wrote the grant and used Keep Trinidad Safe, so umbrella that position.
Okay, so they would be potentially have an office there, and that's who would oversee them, not the city.
Not the city, it would likely be some form or facet of this executive team, maybe not this exact one that was worked from the coalition. But that's how we submitted our proposal.
Okay, that seems logical. How, has the county been involved in any of this discussion? I know in the first meetings that a couple of the commissioners were there, but I'm not sure where they stand on this now.
Aside from the beginnings of the meetings, I haven't had much communication with the county. I know that Mr. Gilbert with Huerfano had to reach out for them to Los Angeles County for something. And I don't know if we ever heard back on that. I haven't had much participation.
Because I'd really like to see their input on all this too, since
I think it's super important because it's not just City of Trinidad, it's Los Angeles County and it's Huerfano County. So Huerfano has, from my understanding, the opposite problem where they have more stakeholder buy-in from county as opposed to city.
okay. That makes sense.
So we have representation from county, but it's mostly Huerfano County.
This is just kind of a philosophical thing, but I think is an important thing to keep in mind in dealing with people who are in this condition, is that they also have a will and they have ideas. And I think that involving them in the solutions that affect their lives is really important.
1,000%.
One time I was doing Riverwalk cleanup and I walked up to a table of guys who were sitting there, obviously, people in this thing, and I said, well, do you guys want to help? Because why not? I mean, they're just sitting there. It's a bag to pick up garbage too. Because I'd like them to be part, that's what it means to be part of a community, is to be part of solutions to problems in that community.
I agree wholeheartedly with you. We also created a kind of an informal survey. A lot of what this systems coordinator position would do would be that a little bit of strategic one-on-one outreach, and because we'd have to input data and have the perspective of what is needed here, not just from what I see as a local law enforcement, but from somebody who's actually living as a homeless person in Los Angeles, Trinidad.
Thank you so much for what you're doing.
That's a great idea. I appreciated Jen coming because after the executive team was formed last year, and those of us that were coming to the big meetings, we got no information. So I didn't know if it died, if the movement died, or if it was continuing, if it was accomplishing anything. So I'm glad to know you guys are, that's tough because you have to get into the details and the legal aspect of it before we can continue on and do what we have to do. So I appreciate that all you big brainer people came on and did that.
Well, then I take responsibility for not having as much communication with the larger group. Again, this is my first time trying to coordinate such a large endeavor, and I definitely made mistakes along the way, but we are on the right track, even though it's like one step forward, two steps back, one step forward, one step forward. So that's my fault.
I understand completely. Is it, and I know you're busy, is there any way that maybe even on a quarterly basis that you could come to council and let us know if there's any?
I hope that we get approved for this systems coordinator and they can come and tell you all the great things that are happening. That would be ideal.
Okay, that would be great.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of money are we talking about? So DOLA has grant money for this, for the homeless?
So
initiative?
they do. Last year, I'm going to tell you the exact amount. Give me just 1 second. because they changed over, Dole had $28.8 million reserved for homelessness within the state of Colorado. What we're following, just again, and I can certainly ask Nellie and Zach to come back down and present this, they presented this to the executive team. We're following their blueprint on what to do to get community engagement, and for messaging, that will be the next step. After the systems coordinator will be messaging and marketing to the community, because it is such a complex topic that you need somebody that has some expertise to actually get out what message the group wants to convey appropriately, because it is so complex. So that'll be the next piece after that'll be somebody else's job.
FYI, if your meeting is on August 20th, that's our regular business meeting for city council.
Yes.
So in the future, if you can change it, so somebody from council can be there as well?
It will be from 3 to 5.
Oh, so you want to tie us up from 3?
Hey, I don't like meetings any more than the next person does.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for clarifying that for us. All righty.
Thank you.
Item number 2, amendments to code and proposed charter amendments.
So Mayor, Council, this was a request from some of our council members, so really this is your opportunity to talk about any amendments or charter amendments that you all would wish to discuss.
So who were the aforementioned council people that did that?
Well, I believe this was initiated by Councilmember Trujillo.
Yeah.
This is my mess. Sorry. I'll apologize in advance. These are random thoughts that I've had and I've been working on, and I worked really hard on them just to kind of go through to have a conversation on. And like I say, just open it up for discussion. I don't know if anybody had a chance to read through any, if anybody considered anything that would be a potential.
I did.
Yeah.
We're not talking.
I thought we were going to be able to just say something.
Oh, sorry.
On the
There's people walking out that wanted to speak.
Yeah, that have prepared a great deal for this.
Okay, come on back, but we're very limited because our attorney's
Thank you,
not
we'll be
here.
quick.
I was thinking, I just wanted to offer, as much as I want to hear from the public, and I genuinely do, our protocol for work sessions has always been that unless it's requested, that there's no public input, and that's not in any way to still the voice of the public. We do have, and I can assure you, being on city council, we do want to hear all of the input from everybody there, but on Tuesday night during the regular city council meeting, that's when, I mean, we do have,
You guys said at the beginning of the meeting that you were gonna allow the public to talk.
Mayor,
Mr.
Council,
Bowman.
if I may interject here, this is a decision the council needs to make. There is no, Councilmember Williams is correct. So protocol is that there is no public input at work sessions. However, it's your rules. So if you want to put the question to the vote as to whether or not to allow public comment, that's a decision that the council needs to make.
This is just informative, and you need to
Excuse
have
me,
the
ma'am.
information.
Excuse me, we're discussing it, please. Okay.
Mayor, like I said, I mean, prototypically in the past, we have not done public comment, and we've lost several people already. My feeling is that this is a large issue, and I would like to hear from the community. That's my opinion. I know it's a huge time commitment for all of us. I think Councilman Ogletree said it. I would say if we can set the parameter for 3 minutes, I think that should be adequate time to express what people have to say. If Ruger would not mind keeping.
I don't mind. Councilmember Williamson, I would ask you to put a motion out
I'd,
to allow public comment not to exceed 3 minutes. on this.
Mayor, I'd like to call for a vote to allow for public comment to not exceed 3 minutes. Just a regular roll call vote.
Is there a second?
Second.
the vote, please.
DeBono?
Yes.
Shu?
Yeah.
Thurman?
Yeah.
Trudell?
Yeah.
Ogletree? Yes. Williamson?
Yes.
Griego?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. First up, anybody want to speak?
I just lost my person.
Hi, Council, Mayor, everybody else. One thing I just want to say is, you know, I totally want to have as much empathy for the homeless as possible. I mean, you know, vagrancy, all that stuff, but let me explain something to you that happened about a month ago. Megan and I and the boys were sitting on the back porch, and we had two guys walking up the street cussing up a storm. C word, F word, every word you can imagine. Help me to understand as a father, how do I explain to my 4-year-old what a C word is, what the F word is? I don't talk to my boys like that. My boys know nothing of that stuff. But as a taxpayer and someone that deals with this stuff on a regular basis living on Santa Fe Trail, what am I supposed to do? My rights are being infringed. You know, I understand trying to protect the homelessness. I have all the empathy for people that are on drugs or, you know, their position. I mean, because I'm one decision from being there myself, any of us are. But on the same token, I have a right to protect my children, and I have a right to be happy in what I'm doing. And it seems to me that we're making an effort to protect these people that aren't, you know, taking care of us taxpayers. And, you know, Jennifer, Mike, they're doing a great job. Mike, you know, I think Mike needs to be our chief already. I think we need to start taking steps to get that done. Jennifer, she's done a great job too in what she's doing, but that's not her job. That's not her job. She shouldn't be having to be doing that stuff. But as council and leaders, we need to start doing stuff. Thank you, guys.
When you come to the podium to speak, will you mention your name? I know you're Mr. Bowman. You need no introduction. Anybody else?
Hi, Council. Thank you for allowing the public to speak. My name is Sleva Gillespie, and I know that Karen Wolf is hoping to talk to Council about the Riverwalk safety study, but if I have 3 minutes, I might as well talk about part of it as well. I was part of a grant for some of the work she did down on the Riverwalk. We asked folks before and after the work a series of questions. We got 150 responses at the end of June. And what I think is most interesting is that over 50% of people still said that they felt unsafe on the Riverwalk. Over 80% of people wanted increased police presence. But the most interesting data of all is the 11 people that answered very safe when asked what is your perception of safety along the Riverwalk. Of those 11 people, these are their answers. It's in town and well visited. I don't know how safe I feel at night. They answered very safe. The next person says, why does the Riverwalk feel safe or unsafe? They answered very safe, and yet they answered meth and fentanyl. The third person that answered very safe also answered, what can the City of Trinidad and Purgatory Watershed Partnership do to make you feel safer? Said, reduce the number of folks living there. The fourth person
Thank you.
said, clean the pond. The fifth person said, they answered very safe. They said, I run on the Riverwalk 4 to 5 times a week. I'm an adult male and feel perfectly safe on the Riverwalk. However, I can certainly understand why other people would have the perception of it being unsafe with all the vagrants in the area. The sixth person said they thought it was very safe, and yet numerous people on the walk. There are some unhoused people in tents, but they do not generally make the area unsafe. Seventh person said, I only use the Riverwalk in the daytime, so I feel safe. I also predominantly use the boulevard section where there does not appear to be encampments or many users other than walkers and cyclists.
lead person did say, it is safe, I've never felt unsafe. I use Riverwalk and Boulevard in every week. Number 9 of 11 said, what can the city of Trinidad and Purgatory Watershed Partnership do to make you feel safer? They said remove unhoused and relocate.
The 30 seconds on.
Okay. Number 10, increase trash pickup by pedestrian bridge. Clean park area seems safer than one of the, it's trashed out with refuse and graphite. And number 11 just said increase police presence, more lighting, more river-related activities.
Thank you.
Okay, well, this is awkward.
Would you
The
please,
person I fought for
would you please
Yes.
tell us who you are?
is Cynthia Collier.
Okay.
Danielle is actually who had prepared her speech, but I'm going to try to relay some of what she was saying, if that's okay.
Sure.
She is coming from a business owner perspective. She is a property management company and a real estate company. We have quite a problem with homeless and vagrants around our communities. We've done everything we can to install cameras, that type of thing. It's cost her, this last 2 months alone, $19,000 at just 4 of her properties for additional cleanup, for tree removal, that kind of thing. So I think that's another perspective that we have to take into consideration. But something that I would like to say on my own personal note is this a community problem. These are real people with real problems. And I am sure that we can all work together and figure out a good plan for everyone. And the more we involve the community, the more support we will get. There's a big phobia about homelessness. But if we're honest with ourselves, unless we were born into money, we've all been close. So everyone has been the recipient of goodness from people. So I guess what I want to say is we should get the community together and help as much. And I'm going to volunteer at the police department myself to see what I can do, because I have a lot of experience in coordinating and organizing events. So I will help, and I apologize that Danielle had to leave. Thank you for.
I urge you to introduce yourself to Detective Sergeant Lay.
I've already done that.
Okay.
Oh, no, I haven't, the detective, I have not.
So go and introduce her and we'll get you into the fold.
Excellent. Excellent.
Thank you so
I
much.
appreciate it.
Apologize for the confusion there, but as Councilman Williamson mentioned, communications and petitions, oral or written, are always reserved for our regular meetings. Whether you all got some idea that we would have public comment today was not the intent of council. We're trying to work this and discuss within ourselves, and it's an open meeting. I want you to hear what we have to say. But protocol is petitions and communications are always in regular meetings. So if those of you are here that didn't have an opportunity to speak, please come back Tuesday. I know it's very inconvenient for you, but that is the proper procedure to do that. So thank you very much. And Manny, I apologize for having to cut you off.
Oh, that's all right.
Okay, I know you're really excited
Oh,
about this.
yeah.
Okay. All right,
Okay, so are we good?
we're good as we're gonna be.
Okay, I don't know if anyone wants to sit through this torturous reading, but. So I've kind of gone through some different things, and there was some things that I've observed that may be something different. That might be helpful, may not be helpful, but it's just something to kind of think about. We'll start at the beginning. I've not done this before. So, thank you guys. Start in the middle? Actually, yeah, that's actually better. There's some fun stuff there. So first one's first. Qualifications for elected officers, mayor and city council. So on this one, it's charter section 4.2. So I've kind of looked at this one, and it was a potential idea just because of the fact of how much training it does take on staff and time it takes for staff to train. So for qualification of mayor is something that I had thought about, was that at least if, sorry, I got super tongue-tied. I'm reading 4 things at once and my brain's going everywhere. But, so the potential change that I wanted to do was that for someone to qualify for mayor, we would have at least 1 year of council experience to qualify. Being that this way that there's all the training that needs to be done at that point that we learn as we get on council, to kind of mitigate the time it takes to train somebody that hasn't been on council before at any time. So that was one thing that I had thought about. I don't know if that's a thing, if anybody wants to talk about that or discuss or have feelings.
You know what I think we should do, because for timing and we have 2 more, we might even have to table our last one, ADUs and tiny homes. No, Mr. Mason's here, so we'll go. But if you
I'll go super fast. Did anyone want to talk about anything?
just go through and just basically say what you want changed.
Do you want me just to read them out?
Yeah, just the changes.
Oh, just the changes, okay.
Yes. We don't want you to read the chart.
Thank you. Because I wasn't sure, I was like,
Is that okay with everybody?
you guys cool with that? Okay, everybody got a copy, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So 4.2, potential change, at least 1 year of council experience to qualify for position of mayor for reasoning of, to save staff time on orientating. There was another one, 4.6, potential change separating the term of mayor for terms for the council of 6 years max in 2-year increments versus 2, 2, 2, and 2, because by the time that a mayor finally gets everything into position, they're out. So that's the idea on that one. 8.3, composition of boards and commissions, initial appointment, sorry, so I'm going to go read it.
Excuse me, can I ask you a question?
Yes, ma'am.
So, I'm not sure I understand what you're saying, is that, so someone could be in the offices of city council and mayor for more than 8 years potentially?
See, that's what the talking point I wanted that one was,
Okay.
because I wasn't sure how to completely word that. So instead of going for an 8-year term, it's like we go for a 6-year term, 2 years on council, because that's what it takes, 1 year to run. If you got on, then you had a 6-year term, but we could separate it. I just wanted ideas on that. So those are just my personal ideas. If anyone else had any ideas, I really would love to hear them. Okay, thanks.
Are you continuing on?
Yeah, so there's some things they're just things to think about pretty much, right? Is that what we're doing? Okay, thank you. Next one was boards and commissions. Okay, so potential change that I had in my thought was adding an in-person attendance clause, limiting the amount of virtual per year. Also possibility of removal of the term just cause removal, and this way we have a consistency across all boards, because on our boards and commissions, the way that we have them stated as of now, some are pretty direct, where they say what we can and we cannot do. Then there's an umbrella that kind of has a different verbiage. So the verbiage is kind of off. And what I was looking for was just the talking point to figure out if we want to be consistent across all boards and commissions on the removal and the appointment process. So I have that one. Also, there's the potential of also on the ordinance side to think about is determining what just cause is and actually defining just cause. Like if with, for example, conflict of interest, attendance, so on and so forth, those kind of things, and actually getting a true definition so that we have a reason for what just cause is. And I think that's in all fairness across the board, so we know if people are removed, they'll know why. Yeah. Municipal code, now this is my big one. So I have a handout. Okay, so on this one, so what I've been looking at, our salaries have not been addressed since 2007. And one of the things that I was kind of looking at, and this kind of falls in, not everyone is always gonna be in a position of being comfortable in being able to do public service and make the choice of having to pay their bills. We kind of are on the lower end, and since 2007 to where we are now, there has been quite a bit of inflation. Everybody knows the cost is high. And I know this is always a controversial thing, but I wanted to put it on people's minds if they wanted to think about it. We probably have people out there on the next term, probably the following term, that would want to run and might probably be a great council person, possibly a great mayor, but they would have to make that potential decision of, do I pay my bills? Do I support my family? Am I able to make that type of a sacrifice to be able to go into public service? And as of right now, where we're sitting at, and I think everyone knows it's public information, so this council, we get $550 per month. Mayoral rate is $850. I threw a number in there because I wasn't sure, and the reason that I threw that in there was because I did a study all the way across through the municipalities through Colorado, and they're separated out there. There's many different, so it's statutory and home rule is how I kind of did this. I broke it down to kind of where we're sitting. We sit around 67th in the state. We're pretty low for our population, for what we serve. So it's just something to think about of where we're sitting at. I came up with a number kind of looking at back to kind of set us even below some of the other cities that are even smaller than us that are paying a lot higher. So I had looked at, possibly 1,300 on the mayoral, and then I think I went through, I think I kind of figured out the council person was 1,000. So, but like I say, and something to think about, this is not for us, because state statute states that we're not allowed to vote on our own raises. This is for future generations we don't know what 10 years down the line is gonna bring. Is someone actually gonna be able to dedicate this kind of time, or are they gonna be stuck with 2 to 3 terms? So it's just something to think about. So that was one of the other ones. Yeah.
May I ask a question for Danny?
Yes, ma'am.
Never mind, I see the city of Trinidad is on the second page, near the top.
Okay.
Got it. Just trying to find it.
Okay, so did everybody get
I think maybe you should maybe position when those come into effect, because we're not voting for ourselves.
Oh, so it would be at the end of each term, so it would be the next term.
Right.
So like, for example, my term ends 28?
Yes.
I just keep coming. So, so in 28 is when that would have taken effect for my seat. So same thing, like yours is up, what, next year?
Mhm.
So then that person, it would go into effect on that year. So it would be for the next incoming council.
And Mayor Council, I just want to say it's tied to the election. So anytime there's an election, whether or not you get voted on or someone else does, that's when that change would happen. So if there was any change, there would be kind of a staggering of through attrition of when that happened based on the election cycle.
Thank you. I didn't know how to phrase that.
Let me ask you a question
Yes, ma'am.
on your information. There's a lot of cities and towns that have nothing. What does that mean?
They didn't report.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They don't get paid.
Yeah. So a lot of them did not, they just never reported on the stats. And the ones that I could call that I couldn't find, those are up to date. So these are current as of, when do we go to CML?
June 26th.
June 26th. So they are all current as of June 26th, because that's when I'm kind of working on.
Okay.
So, okay. Let's see. Okay, so the other one that I had went through that I would like to see and us to consider, I really am actually, what I'm seeing right now is something I would really like to see in future meetings. So one of the requests that I wanted to make was that at our regular sessions that we would have the chief and the fire chief and the police chief in attendance at our regular meetings. Because I think it'd be a great idea to have public input, and we get to, if we have any questions, we can get immediate clarification, which I really do. It's just a potential and a thought if it's possible. But if there's things that impede that, it's completely understandable. Did I finish? Oh my gosh. Okay.
You're done?
Let's see, because this one we just did.
Okay.
We just did that in the main one.
Are you right there?
Yeah, we're down here.
Yeah.
So now here's where I have a question. Did you want me to talk about my number 3 on the finals? Oh, I'm
You
just,
have the floor.
sorry, I just apologize. I don't know, because it was like, we had a discussion earlier.
Why don't we table those?
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
it's just this one.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
Okay, so my last thought that I wanted to put into everyone's mind was a potential for, if we could have a discussion at some point on creating a recreational center. Probably to see if the voters would actually consider that. So, and that is my last request.
And Mayor Council, if I may, just from the staff's perspective, so a lot of what Councilmember Trujillo brought up, I have had the chance to sit down with him. I know you sat down with other staff as well on some of these issues. A lot of what he brings up are policy issues. That would be a discussion at your level, particularly the salary issue. If you wanted to put out a bond question to the voters as to whether or not they wanted to fund a recreation center that would include an aquatic center, that's something we can certainly get you whatever information you need to make that decision. We do concur, multiple staff concur. It's worthwhile to review our boards and commissions section of our ordinance and streamline that a little bit. Standard practice is that you would have just general provisions for boards and commissions and then descriptions of the boards and commissions thereafter. So that's something that we can certainly clean up. I did want to just speak a little bit to the just cause provision. That is, so for removal of boards and commission members in our charter, it does say that they can remove for just cause. There are legal definitions for that we feel don't apply, but you can look up just cause from a legal standpoint, and there are different definitions, is I guess what I'm saying, but I do believe that the council could adopt an ordinance defining what just cause is, so it's clear and transparent for people who apply for our boards and commissions. And that's something you could work with legal counsel on, obviously, but just wanted to give you kind of some staff feedback. But a lot of what Councilmember Trujillo is bringing up is something for you all to consider for future discussions, and what the will of the council is on moving forward on some of those proposals.
Do you want to comment?
Sure. Yeah, sure.
I'm still not clear exactly about the overlapping and how it would work if someone had to be on council and then they could run for mayor. That's still not very clear to me.
So Mayor and Council, let me put this in a very simplistic term. Your salary cannot change during your term.
That's not what I'm talking about.
No, I'm sorry. It was
The change of, right now the situation as I understand it is that you can only serve 8 years in a row.
Oh, gotcha.
And so there's something in here about, that says separating the term of mayor from the terms of council, 6-year max and 2-year increments, and I still don't really understand what that means.
Well, and that's what I wanted was the talking point on that. So, because I didn't know either. I was like, because what I'm getting a lot is, with current mayor, a lot of people are very confused that she's done. And having to explain over and over and over, and they're not, and which is fine, I don't mind explaining because it's our role. But to go through and then it's just kind of that she just got there, and it kind of made me think a little bit that if we have a mayor that comes on, they should have a little bit more time, or possibly even separating the term of mayor, the term. Not
so they would be
tied.
two separate terms,
Two separate
not
terms.
considered together.
Yeah, so and that's a
I think
potential.
that's worth consideration, because, it'll be statutory issues. On the salary changes, I think it's something that we should think about. I don't know how much difference it will make between, as a mayor, $850 to $1,300 a month. But it could be something that makes enough difference for someone who has a full-time or mostly full-time job to be willing to engage in this much public service. So I think it may be worthwhile. And again, the same thing true with the council people. I don't know how much of a difference it would make, but certainly I think it would encourage more people to run if there are people who are reluctant to do so because they don't think that it's going to be worth their time. Medical benefits, it's on here, but you didn't say it. I kind of really doubt that would be a possibility because they're costly to the city. And
Yeah, that's why I didn't bring it back up, because it was just a thought, because on my, I just lost it. here, a lot of the places, it is labeled on there on how many municipalities actually offer life, dental, and health insurance. There's some cool ones too that offer extra benefits too that can't afford it. So it's like some have like a free pass to their rec center. So it's just kind of those incentives of what they can do to kind of go through to encourage to be able to give a little bit more of their time is kind of what it is. But that's why I kind of left that off there, because like in our position, I don't think so.
And on the police and the chief of the fire department, I'm not sure that would be the best use of their time unless we really had something that we were going to discuss that involved them. I'm not sure about that one.
Okay.
But yeah, I wanted to rec center. Still do always have one rec center.
Questions?
Not really, I just need to maybe absorb a little bit more of what you had presented. You spent a lot of time on that. I quite didn't understand either the mayor and the one-year experience. I just always thought that if someone knew about municipal government, they wouldn't have to, they could bypass the council and run for mayor. I mean, that's just my thought. I mean, a person's knowledgeable enough, I don't think he or she needs a year of experience.
Frank, no comments, no questions?
No comments.
Aaron?
Councilman Trio, thank you for bringing this. It's obviously a lot of effort and warrants some looking into, but I think, it's further discussions we can have, and we're not making a decision right now, but thank you. It obviously represents an incredible amount of work.
Yes.
Thank you for the effort you put in there.
I appreciate it.
I have no further comments.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna give you, because I've thought about this, and you know what, in looking back at some of the mayors that were elected with no prior experience, they did very well. Joe Riorda did well,
Yes.
Bill Rico did well, and I can't remember, that's the only ones I remember that didn't have prior council experience. But
Some of the older ones.
some of the old,
Yeah.
before my time.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was there for that.
Okay. No comment
No
on that.
comment on
Fred.
that.
No, on that. But, really, whether you sit in this chair or that chair, it's a learning experience when you're in the job, and I really can't see the benefit of that. And it gives the impression to people that we're trying, we on council. I'm out of the mix, I'm gone in a year and a half, so I'm not trying to feather my bed in any way, but it gives the impression that maybe the community thinks we're trying to keep the mayor's position within whoever is on council. And I don't think we should do that. The 6-year maximum and the 2-year thing, I wish I could go back and talk to the people that did the charter and ask them why it was that way. But my feeling on that, Manny, is we have to go through, it's a charter amendment, so we'll have to go through a general election.
Yes.
That costs money, and my philosophy is if it's not broken, don't try and fix it. It's worked well. Council has 8 years maximum. The mayor has 8 years maximum. And I think it should stay as it is. Along with the wages, how many of you ran for this office because of the money that we get?
Everybody.
Yeah.
No.
You're
But
right.
we are
Nobody.
we are mostly retired.
Nobody
And
did.
that's,
I'm not retired.
well, I know.
Okay, but
Yes.
this is what I'm looking at now, where, none of us can predict what the financial health of the city will be in the future. And we're asking staff to cut it lean, cut it lean, cut it lean. And I really cannot justify, especially that amount of an increase. Especially when we see the financials of the city, we're doing well. I mean, don't get me wrong, the auditor told us that much, but maybe a few hundred, but I can't see, and definitely not medical benefits. If you can see what medical insurance costs, I mean, I think we owe it to our employees to make sure that they have medical benefits and other benefits before we as council. You know, I looked at it, and I'm not standing on I'm not trying to be a hero by any stretch, but the only reason I'm sitting here is because I thought I could make a difference. And I have a feeling all 6 of you feel the same way. So I think we, you know, I know it costs, I spend a ton of money on donations and come on, Mayor, buy these tickets, come on, Mayor, buy, you know. So that's what I use my wages for, but I don't think that's a determining factor for all of us. But we can discuss it further, and I apologize, I don't want to shoot you down.
No, and like I said, they were discussion items, like,
Yes.
none of my numbers are nothing.
No, and I understand.
No, yeah, so.
And I
it's-
appreciate the fact that you took the time. I think we all need to pitch in and buy you cable.
That actually would help. I had to cancel it.
And as far as Chief Backrack is here, he's here more than we are, and interim Chief Tahanovich, I wouldn't, you know, if there's something going on in the community, I don't want them to sit here if there's something other things that they need to do, but that's my 50 cents worth. But I appreciate it.
Well, and I
That
thank you guys.
major thinking.
Yes, and I thank you all for like looking at it and just paying attention to it, because I like, there's just things that I just wanted to go through that I read that I'm trying to learn, you know, and try to get a better understanding of. And I think it's a great conversation, you know, so that I can get a better understanding. And I think if we bring it out, that we are looking at the charter regularly, we are looking at ordinances, you know, that the public actually knows that we are looking into these things. You know, we're not just sitting back. We are looking back. We are looking to see to make things progress and where we need to be. You know, and I thank all of you for looking at all of these. And thank you for your input.
And, you know, as far as the recreation center, you know, we've heard about the indoor swimming pool forever. We have the figures don't lie. So if the community wants to assist us in building an indoor swimming pool, I think that's the only way to do it, to bring it to the vote of the people and let them say, okay, let's see how badly you really want an indoor swimming pool, because finances as they are now, there's no way we can afford not only to build it, but to maintain it.
Chemicals.
Okay. All right. Anything else on that subject? Item 3, new state legislation regarding ADUs and tiny homes. Mr. Mason, can you come so we can ask you some questions?
And Mayor, I'll be happy to introduce this, and I don't know if Mr. Mason has anything above and beyond what I'll say, but I just wanted to give a quick history of the legislation and what's happened over the last couple of years. So as most of you will recall, in 2023, there was legislation that, it was a single bill that would mandate an accessory dwelling unit on a single family property as a use by right. Trinidad was adamantly opposed to that. Staff concurs with that. We don't really want the state to come in and talk about our local land use and to mandate things on us. But it was an initiative by the state legislature in response to the general housing shortage in Colorado. So it was born out of that. It failed. There was a strong lobby from the municipal league, from many cities, not just us, but we were a prominent voice at the table. I don't know that we'll be invited to the governor's dinner parties anytime soon, but we did what we thought was right for Trinidad, and it was very important. And so that did fail last year. This year, a lot of the tenets of that legislation got divided up into multiple bills. So there was a bill, I believe it was House Bill 1125, don't quote me on that, but basically that accomplished that goal of accessory dwelling units as a use by right. However, it only is applicable to jurisdictions who are in a metropolitan planning organization. We're not. So it's not applicable to Trinidad as far as we can tell, at least not for this year. We are in a transportation district, which our council of governments, and Councilmember Williamson's on their board, takes part of, but we are not in a metropolitan planning organization. So as far as we can tell, it does not apply to us, so it doesn't circumvent any of our local ordinances. But it is something that we need to keep our eye on. It's something the state is very much pushing, and in future legislative cycles, we don't know what might happen. As far as our home rule authority goes, I just want to kind of explain that a little bit, juxtaposed against this type of legislation. So home rule authority, unless there's a specific exemption in the law, and there is in some cases, so a good example would be procurement. We are not mandated as a home rule municipality to follow the state's procurement code. We can adopt our own. Anything that state law is slapped on, we can, by charter, adopt by local vote. Anything that would differentiate really from maybe state policy, but not necessarily state law. So there would have to be a specific exemption carved out in the state law that says this does not apply to home rule municipalities. So we do have a lot of local control. I'm so proud that Trinidad is a home rule municipality. That's a tremendous benefit for us. And I think we can all agree as local government people that we want as much local control over our city as possible. And we see that in a lot of the decisions we're able to make day to day. So Trinidad's poised really well to stand up against some of these things. There's a lot of good state legislation that comes out. I don't want to, belittle or say that none of it's applicable, but in true local government tradition, land use has always been something that has been something under the jurisdiction of local municipalities, and rightfully so. Who knows our community better than us? And we should be working with our planning and zoning commission, our residents, to decide what's best for the community. So I just wanted to give a little history there. The good news is, as far as we can tell, that particular facet of state law doesn't apply to us.
Okay.
But I'll definitely let Mr. Mason, I didn't mean to steal your thunder,
No.
but say anything above and beyond.
No,
that you
I think that covered all, Steve, I appreciate that, 'cause, yeah,
Okay.
I can handle that.
It's okay, we'll answer any questions you got, but
So I have a question for Mr. Mason, and I apologize because I'm the one that requested this on a work session. But I put tiny homes, but I didn't mean specifically tiny homes. I need to be more specific. So what I want to ask you is, what is the minimum square footage of a home that we can put in Trinidad on the law?
650 square feet is.
650? I thought it was 1,000.
No, 650 for one bedroom in residential.
That's a tiny home.
It's small, but it's not
Small.
tiny. So tiny
Okay.
usually gets in the 400s.
So it's one bedroom,
Yes. So if it's like a 2-bedroom, the minimum's 800.
800?
Yeah, so it climbs up as you get more bedrooms.
What is that square footage on Main, 1201 Main? I just saw that the other day and I was like, what is that?
Oh, so that's a commercial building.
It's not a tiny home.
And,
No.
That's a
It's
commercial
a
building.
bike's.
Bike, yeah,
It's
bike
a
shop.
bike
Yeah,
shop.
okay, yeah.
It have it look like it's ADA compliant possibly.
Yes, ADA compliant. It's a commercial building.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean.
No, fair question. I get it quite a bit actually, so I
Yeah.
should have recognized the address.
And how many, is there square footage limit
On that.
on a 3-bedroom?
3 bedrooms 900 and 4 bedrooms 1,000. Now the exception to this is if you can go down to 400 if it's multifamily. So that's like an apartment complex.
Okay.
So you can have like a studio. That is, but if it has to be like a multifamily use, which is like apartments or.
Is there any requirements for bathrooms?
Yes.
X amount of bathrooms per bedrooms? Number of
It has
bedrooms?
to have 1 bathroom, has to have 1 kitchen. So
Okay,
that's it. That's it.
Does it have to be foundational?
Yes, require foundations. Yeah.
And-
So, which is a big issue with tiny homes.
Yeah, I didn't mean to.
Because I read where some are on wheels, actually.
Yeah.
No.
A true tiny home's on a chassis. So it's on wheels. Yeah.
No, I wasn't advocating for that. Does anybody have questions for him? Mr. Mason? No. And let me explain this, the reason why I brought this up, because we as a council have talked in prior meetings about trying to be more robust with our ADUs. And there's some lots where older homes were built on that are small. But I can't see even a 650 square foot house would fit on all these lots.
And Mayor, I'm glad you brought that up. There's a lot that depends on the lot.
There's a lot that
Depends
depends
on
on
the
the lot, yeah.
The lot depends on it. So the size of lot matters as far as the conversation. We have setbacks, we have
Right.
different rules that go there with. So there's our code's very specific. What I would say is that we look at everything case by case. So you're absolutely right. There's some lots where we couldn't even accommodate a 650 square foot residential home. So
Yeah, they just call them studio homes.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So-
the one thing I will say, I apologize to interrupt you there. The Planning and Zoning and Variance Commission is really where all the action happens. So there are some variance processes. They have the opportunity to make recommendations to you all that deviate from our code in certain cases. So we're not, there's kind of an art to all of this. But I will say we have spectacular people on our Planning and Zoning and Variance Commission. And they really do a good job of vetting issues and making decisions that are best for the context of the development. So I would encourage you to rely a lot on their recommendations as well. They're going into a lot of the weeds that you all don't get into, and that's what they're there for.
So does the lot size, is that what the issue is with the small home? Is it the setbacks?
So for tiny homes, is that?
No,
Yeah.
not for smaller homes,
Yeah,
like
and-
the 600.
And Mr. Mason can speak to this better than I can, but yes, it absolutely has to do with, can you build a 650 square foot structure and meet the setback requirements? And really, that's kind of the biggest issue when you're talking about it.
So this is why I'm bringing this up, because there are some homes that we're gonna demolish and the lot will be available.
Yeah.
So what do we do with those lots?
So again, Mayor, Council, that's where we would entertain any land use application that would come through and go through our planning and zoning process on that. And that's where the variance process comes through. If they can demonstrate that it's something that makes sense for that lot, you all can consider that ultimately as a city council.
Okay. And then ADUs, we haven't touched on ADUs, but it seems like, when you talk about affordable housing, if the lot would hold or support an auxiliary dwelling for like parents, elderly parents,
Sure.
is that something that zoning and planning is thinking about? Are they?
And I don't want to steal all of Mr.
Go ahead.
Mason's thunder,
No,
but yes, that is something that actually has been quite a bit of discussion at the planning and zoning and various commission level. Have they given any formal recommendations?
No, nothing, no formal recommendations, but, and Steve probably knows better than I do because I wasn't here, but I guess when I talked to Mr. Yearman earlier today, he said there's been quite a few conversations that was prior to me being in the city, so.
If that's something you want, and I'm sorry, but if that's something you wanted the direct planning, zoning, and various commission to give you a recommendation on, that's absolutely appropriate for them to do.
I think, given, and I'm sure there's not a lot of lots that would accommodate it.
You can parcel out your comments.
That would accommodate an ADU, but, when you're talking about elderly parents, instead of putting them in assisted living.
It's a good question.
I just want to,
Yeah.
if council is in agreement, it's not my show.
And
Yes.
Mayor, just to let you know, what planning and zoning would look for in those cases is intrusion on neighboring properties, parking is a big one. Is that going to cause a lot of cars to be in the area? Utility hookups, alley access, general access like that. So again, case by case. But if somebody wanted to put an accessory dwelling unit for their parents on their property, they certainly could come to planning and zoning and request that and have that discussion.
Okay, so we could do it
Under our current
It's
code,
not
absolutely.
across the board.
It's not out of the question, it just requires review and comment and feedback and us looking at all the factors that, the ultimate goal is to make sure we're keeping neighborhoods safe for other residents and not, infringing on other people's quality of life.
Okay. Any questions? Did you have a question?
I was just gonna say, it was never my understanding that you could not put an ADU on your property here. It doesn't prohibit it, it just sounds like it's not a real clean kind of application process. It's gonna be looked at carefully.
It's very clean, it's just a lot more steps.
And I think that what the conversation in the past has been more about ADU as a right, that you have a right to it, and I think that was the pushback was we don't want people thinking they have a right.
Okay.
And Mayor, thank you, and Councilmember Ogletree, so that's what the state legislation would have said.
Okay.
We wouldn't have had the opportunity to review them on a case-by-case basis. It would have just automatically, anybody with a single-family home could add an ADU, and I think Mr. Mason, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it even voided our setback provisions to some extent. I think at least that was on the table at some point. And
Simply with more.
exactly. So, just for context, I think it's a problem that we're seeing in the more urban areas of the state. And maybe it makes sense for them, although I don't know that if I was a city councilor for the city of Littleton, that I wouldn't still have some concerns. That the state's coming and telling me now, us as our jurisdiction, what to do with our land. But no, so there is a process to apply for a variance if you wanted to have an accessory dwelling unit as it stands now in our code. So it's not a direct no automatically, but in general, our land use code doesn't say that someone who owns a home can now go put up an ADU, and that's what the state's trying to force us.
Coincidentally, when I talked to Mr. Yearman this afternoon, he had just finished drawing out the outline of an ADU at his house because his in-laws.
He knows how to go through the process.
Pardon?
I said he knows how to go through the process.
Oh, yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? So,
Any other questions?
No.
No. Let's take a break till about 5:10 and we'll come back for executive session. Does that sound good? Thank you. Thank you all.
Isn't there planning and zoning here at 5:30?
yes.
Huh?
There is a plan.
If you all want to do the executive session in the conference room, we can move over there. Planning and zoning is meeting here at 5:30.
Okay, that's.
Beginning of the-